Good afternoon, everyone. My name is James Justin Calderon, and today I'll be presenting my informative speech. Today, I have my family members tuning in for today, so you guys go ahead and wave.
Hi, this is Mom.
And additionally, I'm going to bring my auntie in. She is joining in virtually on the cell phone. Go ahead and say hello, auntie.
Hi, Nancy, Justin, James.
All right, that is all of my audience for today. So, for my informative speech, it's titled Savoring Our Digital Pastimes. And I would like to go like this. As video games have been gaining rapid popularity in recent times, there's been a lingering question that needs to be answered. As time progresses, our fascination with old hardware and software might become defunct due to many internal externalities and also external. Let me give you a real world picture of what can happen in the next 10 to 15 years. So, your favorite games, such as Call of Duty, Fortnite, they're popular now. But you see this Ethernet plug? Maybe one day as companies shift, new games release, servers cost a lot of money. Usually the companies are going to just do this, drop the plug. Essentially, this is how games become lost and forever forgotten. However, it doesn't have to be this way, and this is what I'm going to tie in today's video. Just to give you a real world example as well on how popular video games have become as a pastime, I will be quoting for a popular game site dated as IGN. A new report by DFC Intelligence has revealed that as of mid-2020, there are nearly 3.1 billion global video game consumers around the world. And that is a lot of people playing video games, probably way too much. Now, you may ask yourself, what exactly is video game preservation? Well, there are many segments of video game preservation. By starting with this, we could classify video game preservation as the practice of maintaining and documenting gaming history. Things as dumping a physical disc or cartridge onto other hardware. So for example, preservationists could take a PlayStation 2 disc like this, open it up, dump it on a DVD flash drive, and then it's archived basically forever as long as the data is stored in its proper manner. Additionally, once such data is dumped on a device, users like to data mine, basically looking at the game's assets and source code to learn more on how the game was actually created. Lastly, in this thing, preservation can be also classified as reverse engineering by looking at game source code, which can be ported to newer systems. Many gaming companies do this on a daily basis. For example, this PlayStation 2 title here, dated back in 2001, has been ported to the PlayStation 3 due to the use of reverse engineering from the original source code. Now that we have a good foundation on what is video game preservation, I want to go ahead and state why preservation is important from a consumer and development standpoint. From a development standpoint, let's talk about research. When creating a game, there is so much to do in terms of budgeting, creating art, voiceovers. All of that takes very long time in research. So a lot of times when big game companies, they may utilize old core engines, old assets to build your favorite titles. In addition to this, from a consumer aspect, why preservation is important, it's about backwards compatibility. In simplistic terms, backwards compatibility can be stated as using newer hardware that supports older software. For example, the new PlayStation 5 can play older PS4 titles, which is a plus. Another thing of why preservation is important, video games is considered an art. Now that may be subjective, but I'm not too sure if you've seen the new ray tracing 4K games. They literally look like straight into like Marvel movies. So it's pretty exciting that games, instead of its old 8-way counterparts back in the day, has really advanced throughout its time. Lastly, just to give why video game preservation is important on an academic standpoint, it helps students like me learn about game development and for security research purposes to build better games on a network interface for the public to use. Since now we know about the basis of video game preservation, the question really comes to fruition: how are favorite titles become lost in the digital jungle? So for example, I'm going to bring out the old PlayStation 1. This thing is from 1994. It's older than me. And with more older titles, such as the Super Nintendo, NES, things will break. Imagine those old arcade machines your grandparents used or even your mother used back in the day. Most of those titles, if not properly preserved, will never see the light or fruition for newer generations to come. Imagine online services have ceased to exist. Now that we live in a digital age, there are a ton of games that are just online based only. Like I said, imagine this plug right here. This could be an upcoming future for basically to whatever to come. Next thing, since we are in a digital age and streaming, a lot of our not digital copies, our hard copy games, discs are seeming to ever physics. Since it's easier to just download games on the go now, most companies do not seem fit to create box art, disc for the consumer. As well, just due with any business concerns, game development companies may go out of business due to shifting business models. Games may get bought out by other companies or whatever the case. These are how our favorite titles can become lost due to time. Now, this doesn't have to be this way. How can we combat losing obscure gaming media? Now, there's plenty of ways on how we could do this. For example, software emulation. Software emulation allows the end user to basically emulate a game that it wasn't on its original hardware to be played on. So users could, for example, play Kingdom Hearts 2 on their PC by using a software emulator. Then, on top of this, users can actually dump the media, such as discs and cartridges, as we discussed in the intro, back onto their hardware to be played and stored for time to come. Migration is basically porting older software to new devices. For example, Miss Pac-Man, that was on older arcade arcade boards, can be played on virtually anything. The Google web browser store, PlayStations, Nintendos, the list goes on and on. Another way how game preservation can be saved is virtual database libraries. Users usually have RAID systems or private cloud storages where they keep an archive of our favorite digital games saved. So thus games that are deemed only online only or exclusive in some shape or capacity or maybe never been released have been properly preserved for this reason. In conclusion, hopefully the next time you play your favorite games, regardless if it's original NES or the PlayStation 5, we can conclude gaming is a form of art and should be preserved as a means to touch future generations about software programming. Now, I would like to ask you, audience, if you ever had a situation where your favorite video game stopped working. Did your little brother broke it? Did you just, stop playing it or even sold it? Was it a scratch disc? This is why preservation efforts can save our favorite digital artifacts. Thank you guys for watching. My name is James Justin Calderon, and I can't wait to see your videos.